Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I am your host, Corey Barrier, and I am here with Scarlett O'Connor. Did I say O'Connor? Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Fantastic. I had like a brain fart there for a second, and I was thinking that it was something else. And anyway, Scarlett.
O'Hara is a lot of the time what people
Oh,
say.
I bet. Yes. So, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. And yourself?
Good. I'm glad you're here. So, Scarlett, you've got a lot of, I know that you're an NLP, a master NLP practitioner, right? Did I say that? Are you the master level?
Yeah, master prac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm not a master practitioner, but I am an NLP practitioner. And
Cool.
so this should be a pretty fun conversation. But Scarlett, I don't know. I'm not going to give you much of an intro because I want you to tell, you tell your story better than I do. So let's go. I'd love to hear
Oh, wow. Where would I start?
it. Right. How long do we have? That's the
Yeah,
question,
a little bit
right?
like that.
It's funny you say that because Sean Whalen was one of my very first podcasts, and I asked him the same question. I was like, so it was very much so more rigid than what we just did. But he was like, "How many hours do you have, dude? Like, I
Yeah.
could go," and that's the truth. So, yeah. So,
It,
Scarlett, yeah, let's go. I'm looking
okay.
forward to it.
Well, okay. So I'll skim over kind of who I am, my bit of my history then, but jumping around a little bit. So it's not going to go into detail, but because obviously we would be here all day, literally. But okay, I'm Scarlett. I'm from the UK. I'm 33 years old. I have been referred to recently on Clubhouse as the Queen of Resilience, which is the name I am now taking. So during my journey, and I'll tell you a little bit about that now, I have been knocked down many times. So I have become a bit of a pro at being knocked down, it would seem, but I definitely like to think I have become a master at getting back up. So my journey started, obviously, when I was born. I was brought into this world by two people who should have never had children, is the easiest way to put that. So my dad was mentally ill and alcoholic, and my mum, I now understand to be narcissist. So they should have never had children. My mum was always incapable of loving me, and now that's very clear. And now I understand that and how she would have worked, I guess, to where I do. It all makes more sense. But growing up, I was neglected, abused, mistreated. By the age of 12, my mum kicked me out. And I went off the rails a little bit then. At 12 years old, I'd been through a lot by that point, couldn't really make sense of things, was thrown into the care system and became this little girl who didn't really understand or relate to many people. So started to hang about with people who were much older than me, got into kind of drugs and all sorts of things, and got into fights and had all this, I guess, built up frustration within me. People, I couldn't understand other people my age. People couldn't really understand me. And by the time I was kind of 16, I was written off by most people that kind of I'd probably amount to nothing and be nothing, etc. Then at 16, just before I finished school, I fell pregnant with my little boy. Now, I do not recommend to anybody that they have a child at 16, like wait until you're at least my age now, like 33 plus, I'd say, like definitely. But for me, he was my blessing, because the minute that I fell pregnant with him, it gave me the light that I guess I felt like I needed in life. I tried committing suicide a few times by then, and life was quite dark. And I didn't know what life was going to look like, I guess, in the future. So having my little boy, as soon as I fell pregnant, it changed my whole outlook on life. I decided at that point that I would be everything that my kind of mum wasn't. I would be this great mother and be able to provide in all the ways that I never had. But I guess I didn't really know what that looked like. And because I was in the care system at the time, they wanted to keep me in care, which I understand, because I can see that from an outside view, there's this young girl who's got no education, no family, who's got nobody about her, and now she's pregnant. So I can understand why for them, they wanted to put me into a mother baby unit and look after me. But I didn't want that, like, at all. So that summer, actually, when I was 16, I took the social services in England to court. I was told that I would never win. It's kind of like going up against the government, and I didn't really have a chance. But still, I insisted that that was what I wanted to do, and so I took social services to court that summer, and I won, despite everybody saying I wouldn't. I won, and I had my care order dropped. So at 16, I moved into a flat on my own and started to raise my boy. And then I set my goals. Like I didn't quite know what they were, but I knew that I wanted the house. I knew that I wanted the car. My family didn't drive. They didn't ever own their own home or things like that. And I could see that other people had those things, and they were the things that I wanted. Didn't quite know how I was going to get them, but they were what I wanted. So as soon as I could work, as soon as I could drive at 17, I got my license. And then I started working, did all sorts of jobs, from door knocking to working in nightclubs on nights to, I think at some points I had kind of 3 jobs. And my son admittedly had to go into nursery from quite a young age, because that was part and parcel of me being able to work and be able to provide. So I, worked pretty hard, I guess, against maybe people understanding why I would do that, why I'd not just kind of stay at home and be at home with my baby. But I didn't ever want to be limited by anybody. I didn't want to be limited by how much the government could give me, by how much other people could give me. I wanted to be able to have that freedom, to be able to not be held back by anybody. And so I went on a real mission, and I set myself little goals like, well, when I want to earn this much, I want to be able to earn this much, I want to be able to earn my age, I want to be, and every time I kind of broke a barrier, it was like, right, okay, next goal, newer goal, buy the flat. And I bought a house and different things. And despite not having any education and obviously no kind of qualifications and things like that, I managed to gain a really good career in IT. And so worked my way up then within a good company, got my qualifications, etc., and went on to be able to sit here proudly and say that I achieved those things that most people would say, like, you need to be a certain place in your life or come from a certain place or have certain things to be able to achieve. And I just know that I always believe that we might be starting a different situation, but we all can, our past or where we're from does not equal where we can go to. And I don't know why I always had that belief, but I always sat with that I could make it, that I could be anything, and it didn't matter where I'd come from. And what I didn't realize, though, is that obviously I'd been through a lot of trauma, and I was no doubt running in fight or flight mode for most of my life. Now, I had no idea of that, but it kind of makes sense now that when I look back, that I was definitely in fight mode my whole life. I was definitely not a fighter. I was ready to kind of take on the world and take on anybody, and didn't care how big you are and how many there are of you. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to, stand up for myself and anybody that I'm with. And I kind of took on life a bit like that. And then in 2015, I went on a girls' holiday to Spain. And on the final night that I was there, I was assaulted by police, and I had my face smashed off a marble floor, and I almost died. I had my nose broken, cheekbone, eyebrow, eye socket. Obviously, all my face was smashed up, 4 blood transfusions. And that knocked whatever that fighter was in me. It pretty much knocked it out. It also sent me on a bit of a journey. I wanted to understand, like, why are we the way we are? Why was that police officer the way he was? Why was I the way I am? Like, why was my mum the way she is? And it really started to send me on an internal journey. I was always very much about self-development, growing into a better person, becoming the best version of you. But the one thing I'd never really done was like look inside at, why am I the way I am? And it was upon that I started to realize that I was carrying anger, that I found out if you kind of had things done to you that you morally disagreed with as a kid, it's likely because you didn't have a voice, you'd grow up quite frustrated as a person. And that's what they classed as kind of carrying, it's anger. I would have never have classed it as that or said it like that. But I kind of that was when I realized that, okay, I think that that's what was going on for this person. And whoever that man is, and the police officer, that he no doubt is carrying stuff with him, and I no doubt was carrying stuff with me. And then before I could really do too much about it, I guess, in 2017, I lost my dad. And 8 weeks later, I lost my dad, buried him. He didn't have anybody, so I was his only person. So buried him, carried on with a smile on my face, still doing everything. Took my son traveling around Cambodia for a month. Straight after, again, smile on my face. Nobody would know that anything's ever happened to me or that anything's going on. And up to this point, I still had never really spoken to anybody. I've never gone for kind of counseling or therapy or talked to anybody. I've always just wore this mask and carried on like I'm okay. And yes, I know stuff's happened, but that's over there and it's put away and I'm continuing and I'm okay. And then in 2017, I lost my dad, went traveling in Cambodia, came back, and within a week I had passed out at the wheel of my car and I crashed into a tree at 50 miles an hour and woke up from a coma the next day with this massive, I don't know if you can see it on this camera, massive scar across my head and severe head injury. And so that was a real wake-up call for me. Obviously, waking up from a coma, we think that maybe we're going to last for a certain amount of time, and that maybe we know when death is coming. And obviously waking up from coma, realized that actually I almost died yesterday and I had no idea that it was even happening, and could have left my son without a mum and everything. And so I went into a bit of depression after that, obviously grieved for losing my dad and got to a really dark place. Suicidal thoughts came again and went into that kind of, not very nice place. And I guess sometimes it takes us to go into that really dark place and feel all that pain to kind of hit that point where we then go, enough is enough. And I got to that place, enough is enough, and realized that I wasn't really happy. That despite having achieved things and having the house and being able to provide, like, it had been tough. There's no denying it. Being a single mom on my own with nobody, like it'd been hard. And I realized that, yes, whilst I provided, and that made me really happy, I wasn't really feeling like fulfilled as a person. Being in IT didn't necessarily fulfill me. It just paid the bills. It paid for all the things that I wanted to have. So it had a purpose, but it didn't fulfill me. And so I decided at that point that I was going to do something about changing careers, because since I was a little girl, all I wanted to do was help people. And when I was 17, I actually went to college and did a year to become a counsellor, and then realised I couldn't continue because you needed to do all this voluntary work and I just didn't have enough hours in the week to be able to do it. So I had to give up. So I decided that was it. I was going to go look for how I could get back into that, how I could get into this. I've been in leadership role in project management for kind of last year, 8 years. And so I knew I had transferable skills there. And obviously I've been through a lot, so I can relate to a lot of people. And so I decided that, yes, I would go and start qualifying and learning new skills to be able to help people. But the problem was I had this massive scar across my head. I was obviously in a very dark place, and I knew that I couldn't go and help anybody whilst I was looking and in this place. So first of all, before I could do that, I needed to help myself. And I have thought that if I could prove to myself that I had the tools to be able to overcome something and come out even stronger again, then that would not only prove to me, but it would prove to anybody I'm working with going forward as well that I really can do this. I also needed to do that for me. I needed to fill my own cup up first. I needed to go on a bit of a self-love journey. And so in 2018, so just after about 9 months after my accident, I started to train again. I finally got back to fitness. I'd kept fit for about kind of 10 years or so, training in the mornings. And so I was allowed to get back to that. So I started training again. And I decided to enter a bodybuilding competition. I didn't really realize what I was entering. I seen this fit mum thing and just went, you know what? It's taken me 10 years to get a six pack. My stomach used to be a saggy mummy belly. It's taken me a long time. I'll enter this competition. And so I entered it before and then realized afterwards what I'd actually entered. But because I like a bit of a challenge as well, and I told myself I was doing it, that was it. Right, well, challenge set, let's do it. And I thought that's all it would be, kind of, let's set the challenge, let's do it, and that would be the end of it. But then I did it, and I realized that I'd never really done anything for me. I'd done everything to be a good mum, I'd done everything for work, to be a good employee, I'd done it, but I'd never really done something just for me. And at that point, I realized that was just what I needed. Like, my son's a lot older now, obviously, so this was an opportunity for me to do just something for me. So I started bodybuilding. I started competing, and I told myself, or wrote in my kind of diary, from coma to Miss Atlas. I saw a competition in the UK that if you won, you got taken out to Oklahoma in America to compete in a show called GBO Atlas Show. It's like their end of the year finals. And so I decided that was the goal I'm setting myself. I was going to go out to America and I was going to win Miss Atlas. And everybody just thought I was crazy. How could I've not done it. How could I even set this goal? Just crazy. But that was what I wanted. And I knew that if I could do that and go from a coma to that and really fill my own cup up first and do that for me, then I would be ready to go on and help the world and do the things I want to be able to do. And whilst I was doing that, I was trying to discover how can I really help people? Because whilst I might have done stuff in a certain way, it's no good me telling you or somebody to do stuff in a certain way, because we all need to work things out for ourselves and we're all different people. So I qualified as a life coach, which was great, but being a project manager, it was kind of similar skills to I had. So I started to learn NLP, come across NLP, and it was like the secret, like that makes and helps you to understand how we really work as people. It was like the magic I'd been looking for. And so I discovered NLP. I qualified as an NLP practitioner, first of all, and then as a master prac. And it was during that journey of discovering NLP that I realized why I had done certain things, why certain things had worked for me and why they hadn't. Like I was a big believer in visioning, because anything I had ever achieved was through visioning my goal and then working towards it. And then as soon as I started to understand how the mind works, it all started to make a lot of sense. And so at the same time as kind of doing the bodybuilding, I was learning NLP, which was just the best companion to have with bodybuilding, at the same time as being on a bit of a self-love journey. And although I missed out by a place in 2018, in 2019, I was taken out with Team GB to represent Great Britain. And I competed in the Atlas Show in 2019. I think there were about 28 of us in my category, and I won. And so that was it.
When you say you won, like you won the whole show?
I won my category. That's all I won my category, Miss That. So I was found.
Wow. God. And I hate to focus on just that one thing, because Jesus Christ, you've been through so much. But I don't know if you know this, but like I used to own a medical spa, and we did testosterone and growth hormone. And so I was in the fitness industry the whole decade before that. So like,
oh, no way.
Yeah. So like, that's a huge deal. Holy shit. I had no idea. Yeah. And it's so funny because I was, as you're telling me, I'm like, holy shit, that's the girl I was listening to the other day on Clubhouse. And I didn't even connect the dots. I just didn't at all, because I don't, I had no idea that you were that person.
Yeah. Okay.
Holy shit. That's fucking, that is huge.
Yes.
Okay,
for me,
go ahead.
Well, for me, it is huge. Like, it was, I still pinch myself now because it's still a bit surreal. And incredible that I got to come out to America, and I made the most of that trip. So I went to kind of spent a couple of days in LA, a couple of days in San Diego, followed by a couple of days in Las Vegas before heading home, which was just amazing.
Yeah, that is crazy. So I have to ask this, right? I know what goes into, obviously with my background, I know what goes into a show like that, meaning what it takes for an individual to be that successful in any bodybuilding show, right? I mean, it is like die hard dieting. It is. How do you? Okay, so my question is, how is it that so you got to that day, right? You got that to the day you stepped on stage, which you could finally eat that day, right? You finally eat what you wanted, right? So how do you go from being that person to now back to not being that person? In other words, you hit the pinnacle, right? You got the best that you could possibly, anybody could asked for. How it's kind of like going to the moon, so to speak. Like, there have been multiple studies on astronauts that go to the moon, or they go to the moon, or go, I think, or maybe it's just astronauts in general that go outer space, and like that's their dream, right? Now, this wasn't your dream all along, but it became part of your dream. How do you like? How do you go back to like the normal life, so to speak, after that?
Well, I guess like for me, it was a part of my journey that had to happen in order for me to have my dream. So that wasn't my dream. That was my, it was my, I needed to do it for me. I needed to do it, the self-love. I needed to give myself that love and do something just for me. And I believed that if I did this, then I would be in a position to be able to go on and help other people. And so my why was, as always, and is still there very much, that I want to be able to help the world in the small bit that I can, in the part that I can while I'm here. Like, I want to help the world, and I couldn't help the world where I was. And so that was kind of something that was just needed as part of my being able to do that. So my goal, I didn't come into kind of the competing world wanting to be the next IFBB pro or the next WBFF pro, or that was never my intention. It's amazing that I've become a pro in what I've done, but my goal is not to say bigger than that, but it's not that. That was part of, I needed to do that so that I can go on.
Sort of.
Yeah. And I'm actually still competing. So I should have, because I won, they said, we bring you back out the year after. So I would have been back in December 2020, but obviously COVID happened. So at the moment, all going well, I'm back out to compete at the end of the year in Texas.
Sweet. Well, if it's in Texas, first of all, we both can assume that it's almost guaranteed the show will go on. But let's go back for a second, because I am just, as you could see, my face changed very differently when you told the story about, I think it was 2015 when this awful thing happened to you on your vacation, or the last day of the vacation. What the fuck? Like, I don't even understand. Like, first of all, I don't understand the psychology of the person that does it. I also don't understand what the hell could have been going through your head when those things were happening. Like, I help me understand.
Well, so on the night when the police were called, I mean, it was very scary. You've got armed men with guns, and so I remember that part, obviously being very frightened, and we got taken up to the hotel. I mean, the thing is, like, the part I have to take is the police were called because of me.
Why?
Because I was kicked out of I walked out of a nightclub with a drink, and I wasn't allowed back in. But the bouncer was there, and he knew I was with 4 girls because we'd been in every night. It was our final night, and he was actually getting it on with one of my friends. And so it wasn't that he didn't know who I was, and I obviously wasn't wasted or anything. I remember the whole night, but he wouldn't let me back in, and that obviously made me angry, and I kicked off a little bit outside the club, and next minute the police were called. And so, I mean, that was kind of it for me, like, whoa, okay, things are now a bit serious. But I have to take on board that the police would have never been called that night had I not kind of kicked off. So I take that bit on me. But the police were then called, and we were kind of dragged up the road, me and a friend of mine, with a police van behind us, taking us up the road. They knew what hotel we were at because we were all inclusive, so we had one of those silly bands on our wrist, so we had no hiding of kind of where we were going, where we were staying. And so we got taken up to the hotel, and as we've got to the hotel, we've got the kind of spinny doors, and I've managed to go in as the first person. And so as I've gone through the door, I've run straight up to reception, kind of screaming. Like, I can't remember what I was saying, but basically, help us. Like, these are corrupt. Like, but screaming.
But you hadn't had this shit kicked out of you at this point.
No,
obviously.
No.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
And so I ran up to the reception screaming. I don't actually remember, but basically, like, they're corrupt, but screaming it, like in a panic, screaming it. And the lady behind the desk has kissed her teeth at me and told me I'm a liar. And with that, I think I don't know what has happened. I've maybe shouted at her and told her she's a God knows what.
Right.
And as I've done that, I've turned around and his police officer, who's like 6 foot tall, has just punched me in the face, grabbed my hair and smashed me off the marble floor. Now, I don't think he realised, well, obviously I don't remember anything from that point onwards anyway, because I don't remember until I wake up in the hospital and I'm having my tongue stitched up. But so I don't remember from that point. And I'm assuming that he obviously didn't mean to probably near kill me, but he smashed me down on the floor, then rolled up his arms. And my friend was being held back. And it was only because she was screaming, "You've killed her," that he didn't hit her, and he stopped and realized what he'd done. And at that point, they all went into panic. And my friend said that they literally picked you up by your hair, put you on a chair, and were just mopping you. All these cleaners and people just rushed out from everywhere. They were all going into a frantic panic. And then they've obviously had to call an ambulance because I'm dying in the middle of their foyer.
Right.
But what was told to everybody, the ambulance and all of my records, was that I fell down the stairs. So.
Oh my God. It's kind of like, yeah, I won't go into the politics, but yeah, I cannot freaking believe that.
Corrupt. Yeah,
What
very
country,
corrupt.
by the way, what country?
This was in Mallorca, in Spain, where apparently there's 2 different police. So you have local police and then you have national police. Now, when I woke up in the hospital, I was having my tongue stitched up, and obviously I was in a mess. I couldn't really see. And it was the police who were called because I think they said that my condition didn't match what had happened. And I think my friend had said that I'd actually been damaged, hurt by the police. So it was the national police who then turned up at the hospital. And luckily it was a really nice Scottish man, so from Scotland. And I ran a mile when the police turned up. I pulled the things out of my arm, out of my hand, whatever, it drips and stuff, whatever that was, and I just ran. And then
Rightfully so, by the way.
Yeah, I heard a police officer and just went, and just went and just. But then, yeah, it turned out to be this lovely Scottish police officer who was national police, and that was when I realised that was explained to that there was a difference, and you had local police and national police. And I mean, it seems that in Spain, I don't know if in all parts of Spain, but certainly in Mallorca, that this is not uncommon. It's very uncommon for it to hurt them to do it to a woman. Very. He said he had never in all of his years seen a woman beat up the way I was, but he sees it almost every weekend with men. And that it was very common for the local police to, assault and injure men.
What? So I just have to wonder, like, well, this 2021, like, nothing surprises me. And so it almost makes me wonder, like, well, if they know this is going on, which, again, based on the last 12 months of the things that this whole world has gone through, nothing surprises me that we think and believe whatever it is you believe. And look, if you sit in front of the news, you're certainly going to believe one way, and if you don't sit in front of the news, you're going to believe very differently.
Yeah.
And so I guess let's just say it was a year ago when we were doing this podcast, I would have asked, like, how is it they know this is going on, but they're not doing anything about it? Well, fast forward a year, here we are, and nothing surprises me that the legality of things and how it's handled. And I mean,
when I turned up to the police station, so the next that day, it happened on a night. In the morning, obviously I left the hospital. That night I was flying home, and the police officer had said to me, please report it, please don't go home and not report it. And I was like, I don't want to go anywhere near a police station, get me home back to UK. And he said, well, when you go to the airport, there's a police station there, so you can report it to them. So I was like, oh, okay. okay, well, I'll do this because I'll have my friends with me and we'll all be flying home. So I'll get there early and I'll do that. So that's what I did. So I turned up at the police station at the airport, and I had my mask and kind of completely covered so nobody could see me. And I've turned up my hoodie over and everything. And I've sat in the reception and waited, gone and sat next at the desk, and he's the two police officers like, right, like kind of, what's up? And I was like, oh, I've been assaulted by a police officer. And they're like, yeah, okay. What have they done? And as I've kind of started to pull back my hoodie, and they've started to see that my face is obviously destroyed. As soon as I've started pulling it back, they're now speaking in Spanish between them. Before I've even kind of got a quarter of it down, they're speaking in Spanish and they're frantic between them. And next minute, they didn't really even, I don't think they even said anything. They just got up and kind of went. They've gone into the back, and now you can see people in suits and there's people appearing from everywhere. 10 minutes, half an hour later or so, they come out to tell my friends that my friends have got to go and I need to stay there on my own. My friends have got to go because the plane is obviously going to continue, like they need to get through security. So they made me stay on my own while my friends then went. Then they got a translator in, and the translator took my story, which when I read back in English, like, I don't know, weeks later, it wasn't quite my story. There was a few, but here, neither here nor there, she sat with me after writing it and said, I'm going to be really honest with you now. Like, you don't have a chance at doing anything with this. Like, you would seriously have to be somebody in power in this world to be able to do anything about this. And so I did. I come back to the UK. I got hold of a solicitor, decided I wasn't letting it go. So decided to get hold of a solicitor, get them to get in touch with the embassy and get it taken to court, etc. And then before it got to court, it was dropped because any evidence, there was no evidence. So the hotel foyer, all the camera, there was nothing. It all gone. Well, there was none. It just wasn't there. So there was no evidence. So there was no court case. So there was nothing I could do. And at that point, I mean, I thought about, like, do I even go to the papers? But the reality is, like, you've heard my story yourself. Like, who am I? And I've had it so tough that, well, how would they make out? So I couldn't do anything. Well, I mean, this is one of the first times I've really even spoken about. I've only spoken about it recently.
Wow. I mean, like, Jesus Christ. I can't. I mean, I don't have words. I don't even know what to say. Honestly, I can't even imagine being in that place of just, well, I mean, it's probably kind of how like Donald Trump probably feels right now, like excluding getting the shit kicked out of him. Like it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so what do you do? What do you do?
What do you do? Carry on.
Write a book.
Get up and carry on. Well, that's the next thing. Write a book. Exactly that. Well,
yeah. Because look, if it happened to you in wherever you just said you were, it happens to other people. Guarantee it does, right? I don't care what the guy said. Oh, I've never seen this. It doesn't matter because now it's socially acceptable. I guess. I don't know. That's bizarre to me.
Well, I shared something, or I must have said something about it on Clubhouse the other day. Because like I said, I've only just started to really say, oh, hey, by the way, world, this is me. Like, as far as people are concerned, I'm a successful businesswoman. Like, most people have no idea what I've been through, like, in any way. I worked with people for like 11 years in my last company, and a lot of them didn't even know I had a kid. Like, I kept myself to myself, like, so much so. But I think I said something on Clubhouse the other day. I started to like talk about things a little bit. And a lady messaged me on Clubhouse yesterday to say, I'm so sorry to hear what happened to you. I'm Spanish and it disgusts me what's happening. Last weekend, a guy and his 14-year-old daughter were attacked by the local police. And it was just like, what can we do about this? Because this is, it makes me feel really sad to think that what happened to me isn't a one-off, and that these things are regularly occurring, and the guy that did this to me probably hasn't actually felt any remorse. And yeah, because that's the only thing I can hope for, really, is that he's felt in some way about it and has maybe gone and got some help, or karma has come back. And but that's the things that I've been telling myself. And then to get that message yesterday of that woman saying, like, it really disgusts me, because I'm Spanish, and we are nothing like them, like the police are. And so to hear that was just a little bit, yeah, it just made me feel very sad that actually.
So if you're, I mean, how does anybody feel safe knowing that if the local police pull you over, they could do literally whatever? Because I live in the US, like, we sort of still have rights, right? I mean, well, we have we don't have free speech to an extent, that's for sure. I think that's blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't understand why someone would live in a country that you just don't, you get pulled over by the police and you may or may not come out okay. Like, I can't imagine living in a world like that. But honestly, that's where, I mean, that's what it looks like we're going towards here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I think Spain and like Mallorca is a beautiful place to be. I think it's lovely, and most people would never know that that's kind of happening, or even if they kind of know that maybe the police are a bit corrupt, they've not had to deal with the fact that they are.
Yeah, because it's all been quiet.
Because it's all, yeah, exactly that. And when people come over and they're on holiday and getting drunk and whatever else, then it's them that are feeling it, and then they're going back home to their countries. So
Right.
it's, yeah, I think if you live there, you probably never know, like. And I think it was only actually because of what happened in America last year with George Floyd that brought it all up for me. That was a real, I'm not one for the news. I don't watch the news. And I happened to just walk past the TV, and it must have been a couple of days after it happened. And I just walked past the TV and caught it, and I just burst into tears. I had to like just take myself off everything for a couple of weeks, close myself off from the world, and just go, oh, you know what? I realize I still maybe am affected by everything that happened, and I just need to take some time out. And then a couple of weeks after that is when I went, hey world, by the way, these things have happened. I haven't ever said, but actually we're kind of 5 years later now, and I'm in a stronger position than I perhaps was back then. And I'm in a different position than I was back then, like in all sorts of ways. So I feel in a much stronger position to be able to actually stand up and say, hey, by the way, this happened to me. Whereas back then I didn't feel like I could do that.
Well, so I think too, let's just for a quick second, as politically correct as this is probably going to sound, is, a lot of the stuff, and I'm not saying this is your case, but a lot of stuff that happened to George Floyd was, I think there was a lot more to that story than people were told. And what I mean by that is, I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but there was some wasn't there something that was directly tied to him that would have, and I'm not saying he deserved by any stretch what happened, but wasn't there other circumstances around that situation that would, I'm certainly not going to say that would have made it okay, but would have been provoking for, well, now that I think back at it, I was actually thinking about a totally different
Situation.
Yeah, I was thinking about the guy that stopped in the drive-through, but George
Yes.
Floyd obviously is the guy that got held down on the curb.
Yes.
Did you have you really watched that video closely?
I've got to admit that I seen what happened, and it just, because of my own experience,
Sure.
it just brought all that back for me. And that for me was like, it's not so much about color, it's about power. is the
Right.
problem, is that people across the world, like, it's not like we can go, oh, well, it's in America and this is happened, as you've just heard, like this happened to me. I'm a white female in Spain. So I think like the problem across the world is having people in power who shouldn't be in power, who
Yeah.
aren't leaders at all. They are just people in power who use their power to their advantage to manipulate, control, destroy.
Look at the world we're living in.
Yeah.
It is all
Which is,
manipulation. It's all control. It's all the use of, at this point, with the administration that's in office, it's all about all of those things. It's all about the power, the money. Do you think Joe Biden for 5 seconds cares? And I am obviously very much so not a Joe Biden fan. I think he's an idiot. I think anybody that voted for him should at this point, I have a feeling they're probably thinking, okay, I probably fucked up on that one, right? Because I don't know how anybody voted for the guy in the first place, but now we're starting to see, right? We're starting to see all the things. You know, he's done so many things in the last 38, 39, ever how long it's been, less than 40 days in his administration that has completely. The only reason he did it was to undermine Donald Trump.
Okay.
And the masks that we're supposed to be wearing. Are you kidding me? Like, look at the science, right? The science will tell you there's nothing. And look, I don't know where you fall on it. And look, if you disagree with me, that's totally okay. Because guess what? A lot of people do. But there are a lot of people that do agree with me. And you know, you can't tell me that it makes sense that I have to wear a mask to go inside of my gym to exercise and be healthy. Sorry, dude. Like, that's like the last place you should be having people wear masks.
Yeah, I mean, what you said before about kind of like we live in a world where there's control and manipulation, and I believe all that. So I don't get into that kind of nitty gritty. Obviously, I don't live in America, so in terms of like politics and stuff, I'm more kind of away from that. And I know a lot of English do and stuff, but I don't here. So I definitely don't in America. Like I stay away from all the politics and stuff. But I see it as like, like if it wasn't, there's lots, like you turn on the news, you turn on TV, you turn on everything, and it's constantly putting people against each other. Yes. There's constantly negativity being thrown upon, and if really like people at the top really wanted our place to be a beautiful world, then with all the power and control that people do really have, the TV wouldn't be the way it is, news wouldn't be the way it is, certain things wouldn't be happening. So because of that, I believe that yes, like there is a purpose to a lot of it, and what creates war and different things creates money and wealth and power and position. And so I'm all on for doing my small part that I can while I'm here to make the world a better place, to help break down that divide of rich and poor and color and religion. And I mean,
well, listen,
we're all human.
Yeah, you're right. But by you now telling the story about what happened to you is absolutely going to change the trajectory of so many lives. I mean, think about this. Look, that can happen to anybody. And if they heard your story, they may have been aware before that took place. And maybe they could have made a different decision. But and so I commend you for keeping this so close to your chest, but now's the time that I'm going to challenge you for a second, because I'll say that I feel like you may be doing people a disservice by not telling people about what happened to you. This is like disgusting. It's disgusting that any human being would do that to another human being. And now I feel like it's your job to let everybody know, because look, I don't know how much you know about human trafficking, but like I was telling you when we first started, I'm on a Clubhouse call and I had to move my phone away because it's so damn loud. But the reason I wanted to be on this Clubhouse call, and this is going to tie right into the reason why I'm telling you what I'm telling you, is because Scott Lumley is hosting this call, and I've got Scott's coming on my podcast on Wednesday. Scott's an extraordinarily wealthy individual, and he's in witness protection in Morocco somewhere. And why? Because he is trying to stop human trafficking, and his only mission at this point, yeah, of course he makes money, but it's beyond that for him. He's made all the money he needs to make. He doesn't need the money. And so the point is he's putting massive efforts into ending human trafficking. And oh my God, like in it's the most, I have an 11-year-old daughter. Like, I can't even imagine waking up one day or being somewhere and then snatched and gone. And not to mention the things that happen to people, that happen to little girls and little boys. It's awful. It's, yeah, I'll paint a real minute picture. They sometimes have sex 7, 8, 10 times a day. As an adult, I can't even imagine doing that. For pleasure, I can't even imagine doing it. They're not doing it for pleasure. It's against their will. And then they get shipped to a different spot for it to all happen the next day. The same thing over and over. And till eventually, I guess they kill them, I guess. I mean, I don't know what the end result is. I don't know if there's too many people that come out of that. But, it's awful. So my point here is this. If you could, by you telling your story, you could prevent so many people from going through what you went through, and the pain that I see in your face right now, that it's like, I don't think anybody should have to go through what you went through. And I think by you being vocal about this and telling people, writing a book, do everything that you've got to do to get this story out, because first of all, it's unbelievably impactful. Second of all, you have got, like, I don't know how the hell you even did the things that you've done. Like, the equation doesn't add up, right? Meaning it, to go through all you've gone through, and then you won Miss Atlas, for God's sakes. Like, and I don't even know if we got to the rest of the. I think my brain just kind of like stopped at that, because, yeah. So you're extremely brave, and I think it's time that you tell people what's going on. Tell people the things that have happened to you, and the story's going to get really tired. But I promise you, that story is going to get easier and easier to tell the more you tell it. And imagine how you're going to feel when somebody reaches out to you and they say, hey, this almost happened, but because I heard your story, it didn't, because I was able to pull my shit together and do what, fill in the blank, right? Yeah. And that's coming. As soon as people hear this, that's coming, because people are going to come out of the woodworks and they're going to say, holy shit, you were brave enough to tell this story, but the same thing happened to me. And I couldn't say anything. I was scared, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So like I don't even know. It was really powerful. Like I don't even know what to say to that. I don't know other than you have, and I'll help you in any way I can to get your story out. You just tell me what I can do to help you, and I will.
Oh, that's really kind, Corey. Thank you. I mean, obviously, I've just, always been on my own, like a little fighter on my own, just working all this stuff out on my own. And even that, like coming out this year and kind of going, yeah, hey, by the way, world, this is actually what I went through. It's just thank you.
I mean, you've got such a good book to write at this point. Like you really just have to tell your story. That's it. And it's not even about buying the book. It's not about the sales of the book. It's about getting that stuff on pen and paper. And well, unless you're like me, I spoke, and I haven't published my book yet, but I spoke all of it, literally. I spoke it into my notebook on my phone.
Somebody said this to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said that to me the other day. Scarlett, all you've got to do is talk it, and you could just, and then send that off to a copywriter, and there you go. You've got your book.
That's it. Like, it's really that easy. Like, it's that easy. And not to mention, when people hear this story, I would be willing to bet that so there's a guy in Clubhouse, right? His name is Gary. You probably know who I'm talking about, because he's on Clubhouse like
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Such a genuine good guy, but he's writing a book about Clubhouse, and he was telling a story the other day. I mean, maybe you heard it, but he was telling a story about how he got the book deal, which was 2 years ago, I guess. He had a beer with somebody at Hay House.
Yeah, that was it. I did hear that. Yeah.
And so he reached into his Rolodex, or whatever you want to call it now, I guess his phone, and reached out to this person and said, hey, this is what I want to do. And the guy said, done. And they cut him a check for, I don't know, 5 digits. Yeah. And he's writing a book about Clubhouse, which is, he got on Clubhouse when I got on Clubhouse. So, but he's going to be known for the guy that wrote the book about Clubhouse. And it's all shit that we're all going through right now. Like, it's not like it's a profound thing, but he took the action to put it into a book that's probably going to sell, no telling how many copies.
Yeah, completely.
So I can reach, I've modded several stages with him. So he knows me not very well. He knows me as well as I guess he could possibly know me in Clubhouse. But I do know that if I reach out to him and say, hey, I need you to hear this story, and I need you to connect her with whoever it is at Hay House. Or I think, did I say that right? Is it Hay House?
I think so.
And I think he would be willing to do that. Now, I can't guarantee it, but I'll certainly try.
Oh, wow, Corey, that would be, I don't even know how to thank you enough for even the suggestion.
Yeah.
That's really...
I will make that introduction in a heartbeat. And so, but now it's your job, kind of just to, honest to God, you probably could just take a lot of what this podcast was about, because you told me the short version of it, right? So
yeah,
the podcast notes will come out, and you'll have it in writing. So I mean, this is probably not going to be anywhere near as hard as you thought it was going to be.
No, perhaps not.
I mean, it's your story. Nobody else can tell that except for you, right?
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong. It's your shit.
Yeah. I guess it's felt weird even just kind of telling it and saying, hey, and then having the reaction. Like it blows me away a little bit. That
you have no idea what's ahead of you. Yeah. So you got to get ready, because that Atlas stage won't be the only one that you're going to be on, because your story's really, really, I mean, god damn, dude, you've gone through like so much. And I don't even know, like, I know for me, I mean, I feel like I've gone through a lot, but not even a drop in the bucket compared to what you've gone through. And so, and the fact that you kept it so quiet is, it's interesting because, and you did it because obviously you just didn't want people to judge you on something that
And I couldn't do anything.
No,
I couldn't do anything. So, I mean, it's the same as my mum being my mum. The same as like, what's the point in telling people to be, nobody can do anything. And I ain't going to play a victim. Like, that ain't ever, that don't help anyone in life. Let's be honest. Like, my own way of like dealing with things in my home life has been to, if I'm ever in a victim mode, to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in it, I'm limited. I'm putting the power over to somebody else. Like, and I know that we're all, when things happen, we all become a victim. And I have been a victim. Like, obviously when things have happened, I've gone into a dark place. I have been a victim. But the minute that I kind of recognize that what's going on and that I'm not helping myself and that doing this won't help me, because nobody can ever help me. I can only ever help myself. So getting myself, so I've always just thought, well, telling people or talking isn't going to change the fact, or so just get up and get on. And
that's very true. But and it won't change what happened to you. It won't change a second of it. But it could change everything
for
for
somebody
somebody
else,
else.
I'm starting to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I like, it just breaks my heart that you had to go through that. And it breaks my heart that, that, God, you just, I wouldn't wish your life on anybody. But here's the thing is you have a level of, well, yeah, the resilience, as you mentioned when we first started, right? I don't think I've ever met anybody that's been that resilient ever, because I'm pretty sure most folks would be like, you know what, this time I'm out. Like, I'm just going to stay down. And you not only got back up, but like you said before, you were knocked down so many times and you just keep coming back. It's like those 9 lives that cats have, evidently, like you got like 109 because, and look, this may not be, and look, life's probably not easy for you at this point. It's probably not like a extreme walk in the park, I assume. That, no. Right. I mean,
I mean, I'm in a lot better position now, like in many, many ways, career-wise, financially, in lots of ways than I have ever been before. It's all been a journey, hasn't it? It's led me to now. So but life is life, isn't it? And
yeah, but let me ask you a question though. Do you feel almost like a weight has been lifted now that you have had conversations around this?
yeah, it feels, I always used to tell myself from a little girl, and it kind of doesn't make sense when I look back because I was such a little girl, but that my pain always had a purpose. And I told myself that from very young, like my pain has a bigger purpose. And now these last couple of months, I've started to share my story. I've realized that this is its purpose, because all these years that I've spent learning skills and tools and whatever to become good in IT, to now become good as a coach and to be able to help people, whilst all that is amazing, and that's great because now I can work with people one-to-one, and I've realized that, yeah, when I was telling myself my pain had a purpose, that this feels like it is its purpose. Because when I talk and I can connect with people who've been through a hard childhood, who've had a narcissistic mum, which isn't really spoken about, when we can talk about that, I can relate to those people, when I can now relate to being, well, yeah, beaten up by a man, by police, but I can relate to losing my life and escaping death. And I realized that actually I'm now in a place where I have so much compassion and understanding and empathy, not because I try to, because I actually have been there. And that's what allows me to be this human now. And my stories, and I'm starting to see this now, it's that pain that, yeah, this is the reason for it. Like, I don't know. I've never been, I don't know how you feel about kind of religion and stuff. I've never been a big believer in God because my dad was so religious. He was mentally ill and thought he was God every time he was poorly. So it completely turned me off against religion. And then these last few years I've been on this journey, and it's been very spiritual, especially with learning NLP, and it's all become very kind of woo-woo, as they say. Like, I feel like, well, like my life really has been shit, but I have been the person I am. Like, I believe that this is my purpose.
Yeah, unfortunately, you had to go through the shit to get to this moment in your life, and all that stuff was the process of you getting to the point now where you can tell the story.
Yeah.
That was what it was all for. And
Yeah.
it probably certainly didn't seem like it at the time, and probably didn't seem like it for years later, but now is the time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. There's no question about it. I mean, you just told this story publicly. I don't know how you said you haven't really, have you ever told it on a podcast before?
2 weeks ago, I did my first podcast.
Good.
So yeah, that was the first time very different to this though, not such a casual conversation. And yeah, it's very nice. It feels like we're just sat having like a cup of coffee and just having a chat, and it's really nice.
Yeah. So, and yeah, so I would say let's we do have to, I don't even know what time it is. I am not it's like 20 minutes past my last appointment, but that's okay.
Oh no.
No. This has been worth every second of it. In fact, my appointment's with a guy that jumped out of his house at, I think it was 8.5, because it was on fire.
Oh wow.
And he was 75% burnt. Like 75% of his body was burnt.
Wow.
That's not even the worst part. The worst part is his whole family died in that house. And so, I'm helping him because he has such a powerful story, like you. And he's he's made quite a splash on TikTok. I mean, he's got like, I don't know, millions of followers. And like, he's just, and because he told his story, but doesn't know how to monetize it. And so I'm helping him with that. I'm helping another guy that's also sort of in that same spot, helping them, just connecting them with the right people that can pay them for what they're worth in their story and all that good stuff. So anyway, yeah. So I will, all right, tell everybody where they can find you and all that good stuff. And yeah, and so we'll wrap up the podcast, and this has been really amazing, by the way.
This has been, like, thank you so much, Corey. Like, it's been an absolute pleasure. Well, my name is Scarlett O'Connor, and I am Scarlett O'Connor everywhere. So you can find me on Instagram with that. I think it's Scarlett O'Connor UK, maybe on the end. ScarlettO'Connor.co.uk again for website. Yeah, on everything it's just Scarlett O'Connor. So perfect. That is me.
Yeah, well, all your links will be in the show notes where they can find you, your website, all the things that you just listed. And gosh, man, I feel so privileged to have had this conversation with you. And it's interesting. I'll be transparent with you. When you booked the calls, like, God, I don't remember talking to her about the podcast, and I actually bitched about it. I actually bitched about it last night. I was like, this person booked a podcast with me, and I'm like, I've got like 20 podcasts built up. I'm not even looking for anybody, and I thought, well, what did I say? And now, and this is just the way the universe works. Like going into this 6 minutes beforehand, I was like, oh, I don't even know this person. I don't really want to do the podcast.
Oh no.
And little did I know that I've been listening to you this whole time, and I just didn't connect the dots. Like when you
how
told
funny.
yeah, because I was listening the other day when you told the story about falling asleep at the wheel. That's all I heard. I heard Miss Atlas, and I heard falling asleep at the wheel, or whatever you said you did. It hit the tree, and I thought, shit. I was like, that's really rough. I didn't even know about this other stuff. Had no idea. But maybe you didn't tell the story that day.
No, maybe not.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So yeah, so thank you again, and I'm excited to
well, I'm glad you didn't cancel on me.
Well, me too, because I just didn't know, and I guess it wasn't even curiosity. I was just like, well, I committed to this, so I'm going to go ahead and do it because I do what I say I'm going to do. And now we're an hour and a half in, and like I'm so grateful that you gave me the opportunity to do this with you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, quite a pleasure.
Me too. You've you've really touched my heart, Corey. So I'm very grateful, and
Thank you.
I'm glad that you didn't cancel on me.
Yes. All right, so let me go ahead and wrap this up, and thank you so much for coming on, and can't wait to get this story out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.